Parlay has impacted my classroom in so many ways. We were lucky to be a pilot school and got to try it out in all different ways early on. I've used discussion boards for many years in a lot of my high school English classes, but this was the first time that I found discussion boards that really were tailored to exactly my needs as a teacher. Everything I could possibly want was already built in. It was really designed, I think, backwards from what teachers' needs were and teachers' feedback is about it. It allowed me to have many more robust discussions that were ongoing, for me to have Zoom, Spiderweb discussions in real time, and Parlay discussions and kind of blend and meld and bounce between the two has really just enriched my classroom experience. My favorite feature by far is pretty simple. It's the anonymity. That was a game changer. And I think it's become even more important over the years as I've used it. For example, this spring with my film students, it really became clear when we were dealing with some kind of difficult topics around race and racism and stereotypes and, ethnicity and diversity, particularly related to the film West Side Story. They were able to sort of dive in and respond to each other not as personalities or the social hierarchies they might have in a classroom. They were really only responding to ideas. They get good feedback. Sometimes students will just say, I'm sorry, I didn't really understand your question. Can you repeat that? Or can you say it a new way? Or it's very confusing without an example. And the student knows not to take that personally because they know that the other students don't know who they are. It's just kind of changed the social dynamic hugely for the positive. And so we're all responding to ideas and clarity in writing rather than personality. And if we want to change that, we can. I always know who they are. It also allows me to check myself as an assessor, because sometimes I'll assume I know who someone's idea is and I'll think, oh, this is a really, really well thought out. It must be one of these top students. And sometimes it's not. And I think, wow, I would have judged that maybe unfairly based on who I thought wrote it, and vice versa, right? Sometimes it can go the other way. So it's really great to have that feature. I think it's just a game changer for teachers. Fun, and I'll use another one, effective. It really is fun. It's not a chore. And I think it's some of the most effective exchange of ideas that I've seen, especially as a tech tool. I've had so many over the years, but the one that really is freshest in my mind is the West Side Story one we did this year, because I did something different. We'd sort of already had some Spiderweb discussion opportunities with it to talk about the film itself and the content, and I wanted to push them a little deeper. They were going off to college, and I wanted to give them critical lenses to examine the text with in a new way. They were reading about a new production that was coming this spring to Broadway, and the choices that they made that were really different from the movie. Then I assigned each one of them a literary lens or a critical lens. So things like an economic lens, where you look through the text from a financial and economic perspective, a biographical lens where you look through just, how the story of the person who wrote West Side Story actually informs the piece, a feminist lens, so you look at it from the point of view of the women's story in the piece. So there are all these different lenses that we use to kind of examine text. So I assigned them, and they had to kind of reconsider the film through that perspective. So it was really interesting because, one of the lenses is ableist, and students were considering what it means to be a Broadway actor if you can't move your legs. And are people excluded on Broadway who, don't have the ability to dance in a conventional way? And then they had to use the article to kind of link and show evidence of that lens. So it was this really kind of in-depth, sophisticated research and intellectual kind of critical thinking that's a little more college level. And then they kind of had to challenge each other on it. They would read everybody else's and sort of ask questions and consider the text in light of that lens. So it was so rich and robust. We couldn't have done that in a traditional Spiderweb discussion or student-led discussion in the classroom. It really came alive in Parlay, and it is one I will definitely be repeating. I think they gained a lot about what critical theory is, but also about discussion. Oh, very much so. Like I said, I think its strength is that it has so many great features, but it allows for the free exchange of ideas without being attached to personalities. I think that's so important. Now we're all living this online experience. But more and more, even as the world gets back to normal, I think learning how to navigate sophisticated, but simple platforms like this is going to be a really important part of their academic and professional careers. So I think it's great to give them that right away, as early as possible. But I also think that the feedback features are really key. I'm a big believer in feedback. And so to be able to, star a comment and say, this one is a model. If you're struggling with how to do this, that happens. Sometimes kids are like, it takes me so long to get my ideas out. And I'll say, look, here's one. You see how simple they've answered it. That's what I want. Don't overthink it. And sometimes just having that example frees everyone up. Oh, okay, I can do that. Or being able to give them a tailored rubric that I can design through Parlay. It's so simple and easy. My colleagues and I sometimes will just give 1 point or 0 points for supporting your ideas with one piece of text. We don't count it, but it's just kind of like, did you get your point or did you not get your point? And that's private feedback for each kid. But then we can also leave public feedback to kind of say, well, did you consider this? Or what about this example? And so the dialogue is sort of public, and the more kind of personal feedback for improvement can be private. So I love all those features. I think they're hugely important for students to be able to grow as learners, both now and in the future. Based on the way that I like to run discussions in my class through Spiderweb discussion, to me, everything we do is valuable feedback. So if it doesn't go well, then our debrief is always, well, what went well today and what could we do better next time? I'm not looking for the traditional measure of success every single time, because that's not really realistic. Just like sports, we have off days, off games. And so the key is really the feedback at the end. So if something doesn't go the way I hoped it would have gone, then I'll always put it back on the kids. What happened? Why did only half of you post? Our success criteria is really based on having a fun, effective discussion. If we don't get there, then it may not be successful by some standards, but I think every discussion is worthy.